finished at Sunderland. Manchester United have done all they can. That Rooney goal was enough for the 3 points. Manchester City are still alive here. Balotelli, Aguero! It's a job! It's a job!
Sergio Aguero's goal in 2012 changed everything for Manchester City. The goal that won City their first Premier League title of the Abu Dhabi era. A goal that even chairman Khaldoon Al-Mubarak agrees was a moment that changed the entire trajectory of the club. Football has moments that can transcend the game, moments that live forever in the minds of supporters of all teams, moments that define the very essence of the sport. Sergio Aguero's last-minute Premier League winning goal against QPR was one of those moments. But to understand why this goal was so important, we have to go back in time. Manchester had always been red. Going into that 2012 season, United were the reigning Premier League champions. They had just reached the Champions League final while having been crowned European champions just 3 years prior. The dominance they had shown under Sir Alex Ferguson was unmatched. The Reds were by far and away the best team in England. They had won 12 Premier League titles up to that point, completely outshining City, who were seen as the little brother. While Ferguson was creating an empire, City were struggling. Despite being co-founders of the Premier League in 1992, they experienced 3 seasons of struggle before being relegated in 1996. After 2 seasons in Division 1, City fell to the lowest point in their history, becoming the second ever European trophy winners to be relegated to their country's 3rd league tier.
Joe Royal and Manchester City are relegated along.
They eventually made their way back to the Premier League, but began to have financial issues. Thaksin Shinawatra had taken control of the club in 2007, but his political engagement saw his assets frozen. It couldn't have come at a worse time. City were playing some attractive football and had spent big, but it was all crumbling down. Shinawatra had come in to fix City's financial situation, but his questionable reputation had come back to haunt them. It turned out to be a blessing in disguise. In August of 2008, the club was purchased by the Abu Dhabi United Group. They began spending big right away, breaking the British transfer record at the time by signing Brazilian star Robinho from Real Madrid for £32.5 million. They revolutionized every aspect of the club, modernizing at a staggering rate, yet have remembered the club's values, which are rooted in the community. During the summer of 2009, City spent money at an unprecedented level. Over £100 million on players like Gareth Barry, Roque Santa Cruz, Kolo Touré, Emmanuel Adebayor, Carlos Tevez, and Julian Lescott. Signing Tevez specifically was a power play by the Abu Dhabi group. Tevez had spent 2 seasons on loan at Manchester United. Despite his great performances for the Reds, reports said that Tevez was dissatisfied with the fact that he was not offered a permanent contract and the fact that he was dropped from the team. Despite Tevez's outburst, he was named in the starting 11 in the Manchester Derby, where he ended up scoring against what would eventually become his new club. Fans chanted, "Fergie sign him up," but Ferguson refused to talk about the subject, claiming he's a Manchester United player. United did eventually offer Tevez a deal, with United Chief Executive David Gill suggesting that Tevez's situation would be resolved by early June 2009. That ended up not being the case. Tevez's advisors informed the club that he no longer wished to play for Manchester United. Instead, Tevez went to their cross-city rivals Manchester City, becoming the first player to move from United to City since Terry Cook in 1999. City put a blue billboard up saying "Welcome to Manchester" with Tevez in the background. The Abu Dhabi group was making a statement. Despite the talented players, the results still weren't great. A squad with Carlos Tevez, Emmanuel Adebayor, Kolo Touré, and Julian Lescott, assembled at great cost, should have been far better than what it was. City were disorganized and going nowhere. Their owners had shown patience towards a manager who wasn't their choice, and he deserved to go. City ended up sacking manager Mark Hughes and replaced him with Roberto Mancini.
He tried to sack me probably on 2 occasions prior to actually doing it.
Under Mancini, City began one of the most exciting and successful periods in their club's history. They finished 5th in the Premier League, narrowly missing out on a place in the Champions League. The next season, investments continued. City signed Yaya Toure, David Silva, Jerome Boateng, James Milner, and Alexander Kolarov. With even better players and a good manager, City reached the 2011 FA Cup final, their first major final in over 30 years after defeating their rivals Manchester United in the semi-finals. It was the first time they had knocked United out of a cup competition since 1975. the winning goal coming from Yaya Toure, one of City's new big money signings. Then they defeated Stoke City in the final to win their first major trophy in 35 years. Yaya Toure scored the match winner again. Mancini had promised to take that banner down, a reference to a sign made by United fans that hung inside Old Trafford, mocking City for their long wait for a major piece of silverware. He made good on his promise. The defeatism that had plagued the club for decades had been removed. The fans, the players, the staff, everyone connected to the club suddenly felt differently. City were set up for years of success. They even finished third in the Premier League, clinching Champions League football. To continue the momentum, City spent money to bring in Samir Nasri, Gael Clichy, and most importantly, Sergio Aguero. Aguero was another statement signing, a striker who the entire world wanted, but the Argentine chose City. A decision that we will see was the best one he could have made. Manchester City had never been stronger as they started the 2012 season in commanding form, beating Tottenham 5-1 at White Hart Lane and humbling Manchester United by a 6-1 slapping at Old Trafford. The loss gave us a dominant side in English football and making some noise. But the strong form slowed down halfway through the season. By early April, they were 8 points behind leaders United with just 6 games to play. It looked all over. Their form in the first half of the season suggested they would win the title comfortably, but now it looked like a routine win for Manchester United. They would need luck, a miracle, to make up the difference. And that's exactly what happened. United went through an unlikely slump towards the back end of the season. They lost to Wigan, dropped points against Everton, then lost 1-0 to City. Thanks to a late turnaround, City had drawn level with the defending champions with just 2 games to go, setting up a thrilling finale that would go to the last match day. 2 games at the same time to determine the Premier League winners. City just needed a win to guarantee they would become Premier League champions. A moment for them to finally get one over their City rivals. A moment where they could say, Manchester is blue. It should have been an easy final day. Home at the Etihad, playing Queen's Park Rangers, a team in the relegation zone. All that money, all the star players, now was the time to see the results. As the City players came out, there was a buzz in the stadium. City for most of the season had looked like one of the best teams in the world. David Silva, Yaya Toure, Sergio Aguero, Carlos Tevez. This was a star-studded squad. The momentum was all in their favor as well, because they were the team that had cut the gap. Things started out immediately well. Zabaleta opened up the goal scoring in the 39th minute. Out of all of the stars on the pitch, it was the Argentinian right back who started the scoring. The City fans erupted as they had one hand on the trophy already. At halftime, with City leading 1-0 and Bolton winning 2-1 against Stoke City, QPR were in a position to be relegated, while City would be crowned champions. Wayne Rooney's goal in the 20th minute of United's match against Sunderland meant that City needed to keep their lead through the second half in order to win the title. City continued to attack in the second half. They knew a 1-goal lead wasn't safe. They wanted more. It seemed like City was in cruise control, but in football, things are never straightforward. Lescott miscontrolled a defensive header. The ball fell straight to Djibril Cissé, who took the ball and smashed it in at the near post. Just like that, City were on the back foot. A draw would not be enough. 7 minutes later, City caught a break. Joey Barton elbowed Carlos Tevez on the edge of the box. At first, the referee hadn't called anything, but the linesman was waving his flag. He had seen the incident. Mike Dean walked over to Joey Barton and gave him a straight red card. Unhappy with the decision, Barton walked up behind Aguero and kicked him in the back of the leg before trying to headbutt Vincent Kompany. While being escorted off the pitch, Barton tried to fight Mario Balotelli as well, heading down the tunnel. Tensions were beginning to rise. Despite QPR being down to 10 men, City still couldn't score. They thought Aguero had scored, but the ball was saved on the line. Then in the 66th minute, things got even worse for City. James Traore crossed the ball from the left wing right onto the head of Jamie Mackie, who was left unmarked. Mackie headed the ball into the back of the net. From needing just 1 goal to now 2, City's hopes of becoming Premier League champions had been crushed. Kompany had tried to foul Traore, but even that didn't slow him down. Mancini yelled from the sidelines, trying to motivate the players, but belief was running low. City began to turn up the pressure. Aguero beat his man and crossed it into Dzeko, but a shot was saved by Kenny. Balotelli thought he scored from the corner, but Kenny saved it again. QPR, with 10 men, were defending for their lives. Regular time had ended, 5 minutes were added to injury. Just 5 minutes for City to score 2 goals to win the Premier League title. 92nd minute, City got another corner. David Silva whipped the cross in and Dzeko leapt over everyone to bang it in. The City crowd erupted. 1 goal wasn't enough. but it had given the City players and fans some hope. 2-2. City just needed one goal and there was still some time left. Dzeko, an incredibly underrated striker who didn't have the flashiness of Aguero or the antics of Balotelli, had come up huge for the Blues. By this time, the Sunderland-Manchester United game had ended 1-0. As it stood, Manchester United was about to lift their 13th Premier League trophy. Aguero got the ball, passed it to Balotelli, who fell to the ground, but with an outstretched leg, still managed to flick the ball onto the path of Aguero. Aguero side passed the tackle by Taiwo, then banged it in. With his 30th goal of the season, the Argentine had pulled out a miracle. Nobody could believe what they had seen. Aguero ran around with his shirt off before all the City players jumped on him. Hart ran around in circles in goal. Mancini sprinted to hug his staff. From closing the league gap after it looked like the season was over, to getting 2 goals in 5 minutes, City's entire 2012 season was miracle after miracle. Aguero had made history for City and deprived Manchester United of a championship they thought they had won. Martin Tyler's Aguero commentary is now one of the most iconic moments in football history. That goal alone was exceptional. Anytime a team comes back, especially in the dying minutes of a game, it's a joy to see. But the context of the goal makes the story so much more fascinating. Ending City's 44-year league title drought, beating their City rivals in the process. A club that had so much success during City's worst period as a club. Then you add the fact that this was Aguero's first season. Big money spent, lots of pressure, and this is how Aguero responded. A moment so iconic that they made it a statue. Aguero ended up getting better and better each season for City as he established himself as a true legend for the club. But this moment, that goal, will forever be the first thing he will be remembered for. On that day, City were no longer the little brothers. You fast forward now, and City are the dominant Manchester side. They are the best team in England, while United struggle. But you go back to this moment, if Aguero doesn't score, would City still have had the same level of success in the years following? I guess we will never know. If you enjoyed this video, I'm sure you'll love this one as well. Check it out right here.